Hey friends, welcome to November and Beyond. I'm Dave Kirkpatrick. Got a fun show for you tonight. We're actually going just live from the studio right here in Keene, and it's going to just be a quick little talk show, one of our half-hour sit-down varieties. I'm going to let you know. I'm going to see if I can find my info. Because we're in the studio, we're able to take a call in. I don't expect anybody tonight, but we certainly can. It works well enough now and then. So my email is on the screen. If you were looking to join this this conversation, you could certainly send us some email. Your questions and comments are welcome, of course, and for most of the time there's going to be a Zoom link for something like this as well. You could actually join us, Zoom into the conversation. We don't expect a whole lot of that to be going on right now today, but that's all right. And in the studio today, I have a guest, and we're going to start talking to him, I think, right now. Jonah Wheeler is joining me in the studio for November and Beyond. Welcome, Jonah.
Hi, Dave.
How are you?
It's good to be here. I love the studio. You know, it's great. It's great. I'm doing well.
Good, thanks. Well, it's been different every time you come. I keep pushing things around.
Pushed things around. There's been different setups, different lights. Yeah, so it has been a little bit different. Different camera setups. There was 2 cameras. Now there's 1 this time. So yeah, a little bit different.
Things are changing.
But, the ever-changing room, and it's a conference room, right? The two. So
this is yeah. Sure. If I tell you all about the studio that I'm in, I actually have a couple offices next door. And they hold most of my stuff, and then this room gets dressed up to be a studio, and makes a pretty decent studio, and it makes a pretty decent Zoom room, a conference room sort of thing. And I should bring some pictures into that because I've spent a lot of time setting the place up and making it do certain functions, and one of the things it does really well is conference room with big TV and that kind of thing. So.
And I hope that you do get that space in there. That you showed me that the other day. It was a very nice, huge space. Very open. If you could get that going, you'd have a whole TV studio ready and stuff.
It'll be nice if I could leave things just set up and ready to go. And so there's a space next door that I really like, and it's kind of angles. It's not a square room. It's corners. But for me, for television, that works really well because I can kind of set up a little living room set here and a little living room set there, and I think I see room for a stage in there to put some kind of small band or something. That would be the goal. And right now I got to hustle because I'm paying this rent out of pocket at the moment. I got to that would be about 3-4 times as much as I'm paying right now. But that's what we're working on here. And anyways, this is sort of a project studio. It's about really picking up where public access sort of left off. I'm looking to get people connected to media and connected through media, and I would like the community to have a vehicle to get their thoughts and their ideas out on. So I'm going to be doing some of that. I'm going to hold up this show, and I think I'd like to do an arts show, and I think I'll probably come back to doing my just some little piece for the community too. That's a little less political, a little more, about the bake sales and that sort of thing. But anyway, I can make some of this space available really at a really affordable rate, and again, keep trying to train people, teach people to get out and do what I do, which is stick your neck and your camera out there and get stuff done. So, anyway. We didn't come up with too much, as far as a list of topics, but that is the whole point, is for us to talk about political stuff that's happening these days. We've talked about November and Beyond being about getting people elected and about electing the right people and that sort of thing. So I guess maybe I'll just sort of hand it right off there and say what's new with you on that front, and what's on your mind these days.
Well, there's definitely a lot of good people to get elected. I have been sort of running up to the State House and testifying as much as I can on so many pieces. I mean, there are crazy bills up at the State House this year. I mean, I think that the craziest one I testified on was a secession bill in Fed and State. There's a lot. But I've also been organizing with Rights and Democracy and sort of freelance organizing, but also with Rights and Democracy as well. And that sort of introduced me to Jody Newell, who has been on your show, and Renee Montiel, and a lot of candidates who are in the State House already, Amanda Toll, all these people who are up there, and very good candidates who are just exactly the type of people who you would want to have on your show. I don't know if you have. Amanda's been on your show, I know that.
Yeah.
I don't know if Jody's been on your show to talk about.
That trio.
I don't know if I don't know if she's running actually, but I know that she ran for city council, and I'd like to see her run for state rep. So I mean, yeah, there's a lot of really good candidates, at least for the state legislature. The state senate, that's a whole other ball game, and then the governorship is a ball game in and of itself. So, but I'm excited, at least on the state house level, for some candidates. And
I am too, and the folks you mentioned, in fact, they just did last week. We did just sort of a hurry up and get it done. A bunch of little pieces for the legislation that's been in the House that affects that's the reproductive rights issues that are just ongoing, and just it's jumping through hoop after hoop.
Renee, Judy, and I were just in House Judiciary. There was a lot of them. I think they sort of stuffed them all in one day, and then put the committee in the House floor, as they do when those big committees happen. But it's rough up there, that's for sure. They're doing as much as they can to try and. This is an experimental state. You have the ability to pass legislation that's not able to get passed in other states, and you get to really sort of how could we do this? That's what the National Republican Party likes to look at New Hampshire as, is sort of this blank canvas for legislation that they then do in the state. I think the perfect example of that is this Divisive Concepts bill, which did originally come from the Trump Executive Order, 1776 Executive Order. But that's the first legislature which took action on it, as far as I'm aware, was the State House here, where they then introduced the first Divisive Concepts legislation, and that was in 2020, towards the end of 2020. Or towards the beginning of 2021. The executive order was 2020. But that's happened a number of places and in a number of areas, and New Hampshire has been sort of that exemplar place of action for the quote unquote right.
Well, I just was talking to somebody. It was what we were going after. I forget who turned me onto it, but there was a website, and I'll share it at some point with the folks at home here. An article about the Free Staters and about how much they're doing and how much they've done. Maybe it was you who actually sent me a link to this piece. But yeah, they're really liking New Hampshire. They found that the folks like to keep to themselves, not come out and get out in the streets and go to the polls and do all kinds of annoying things like that. They found some folks who, if the government's going away, it doesn't matter how it goes away, or they just rah rah rah. And the other piece that this article spoke about New Hampshire said, it's just easy to put one over on those folks, and it made me really mad. Just I don't know.
Yeah, that sort of was it a DC article? So that condescending beltway, we know better than you sort of thing. If there's a reason why the Free Staters have risen, so the Liberty Movement, this is sort of right-wing reactionary movement, it's, I would say, because of that condescending attitude from the Beltway, where people are like, oh, well, you're just dumb, you just haven't learned enough. It's kind of astounding, gut-wrenching at some level, but especially from the people who purport to be on the moral good of the side of the argument.
Well, and it's so hard. It's a weird place to be, because we are little New Hampshire. We're a small state. We don't do much. We don't have much coastline. We're sort of trying to find ourselves a little bit here and there. But I think the way the Washington folks look at us, we're northern Alabama, or that other little state, they can't remember which one's Vermont.
Right.
But then the way New Hampshireites see themselves, of course, like everybody else, we're the best. We have our own little isolated piece. But all that kind of falls apart or falls away during the primaries, when they do indeed come here, and New Hampshire takes on this whole new significance. And they do. They try stuff here. They try their campaign speeches here. They try everything out on us. It's interesting, and we're lucky to have them here. I'd hate to go back to. I'd hate to be just New Hampshire with all the other problems. Like, I don't know. That's something to me. It's.
I definitely. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the first in the nation status for sure. I mean,
yeah.
I love this state. I love everything about it. I mean, not everything about it. But I love a lot about it. I'm thinking more about the landscapes and most of the people, but there's a lot of course, a lot I dislike. But I really do like this state. I've been to a decent amount of places in the country, and this is probably where I would want to be for a little bit at least.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so I think it's just a nice place. It's just it's pretty. The people here are nice, but it is true. I mean, like the whole argument around the first in the nation primary. I do hear the people when like it's hard to be like, oh, I want to secure the first in the nation primary.
Right.
There is a solid and secure argument for making one of the more diverse states.
It's hard to argue for New Hampshire being first.
Yeah.
I would hate for it to change, but it's really well, come on.
Right.
So us in Iowa, right? And
right. Oh, I always forget about Iowa actually.
Because it's way out there. It's one of those.
It's also a caucus.
It's one of those platforms,
and
isn't it?
Iowa messed it up last time, so I don't know if they really get to keep that status.
Yeah, but they keep wanting to jump us, and we keep wanting to jump them, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Usually people arguing for tradition are the folks who benefit from some, some bias there.
Exactly.
That is exactly us. What else do we have? Oh, I just wanted to touch on little New Hampshire here, because I left New Hampshire thinking, oh man, I'm out of here. I'll never be back. I grew up in Peterborough, spent most of my life in Peterborough. Went off to Boston to go to school and to find my fortune and to find more interesting and diverse things. And my goodness, I did find a lot more interesting and a lot more diverse things out there. Like, there's this whole world. Like, if you never left this state, oh my goodness, do yourself a favor.
Please.
Yeah, but
explore,
Yeah. And then, but when it came time to have kids, I thought, I wasn't that far away already. That certainly had something to do with it. And I have family here, and that certainly had something to do with it. But I was like, yeah, it's a nice place. It's pretty darn clean. The people are pretty cool. There is some coastline, So I was finding all the reasons to move back here when it was time to start having kids and stuff. So.
And you didn't go any further than Boston, or?
No, not really. For me, folks doing music, I was doing mostly music, and also video production and all that sort of stuff. But the beaten path stuff from there would have been go to New York or LA or Nashville. That's where everybody I was in school with went, and that's just where you go. That was what you do. Boston was like, yeah, maybe, but no, get yourself to New York. And by the time that was all coming around, I no longer felt like getting deeper into the city. I think I actually had a pretty successful career and tried all the crazy stuff, and I really just settled back on, I don't want more intense that.
And New York is probably the most intense. I actually have never been in New York, but I've been to LaGuardia and JFK a number of times. And just the vibe, even in the airports itself, is
it's a different thing.
Very intense, and if you've only ever lived in the city, you have no idea what it's like living out here. And if you've only ever lived out here, you have no idea what it's actually like living out in the city. I mean, they're totally different worlds, and it's not just taller buildings. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it certainly is.
It's hard to comprehend what like 25 million people in a 25 square mile radius is actually like.
I can't imagine, what little I know about water and sewer. I look at New York, it's like, is there anything under it holding it up? Like,
right, exactly.
How excavated can it be? That must be a nightmare.
Our cities here are, what is Manchester, 125,000 people? It's nothing.
Yeah,
nothing
pretty small
to
cities.
That.
Yeah. People used to tell me that Boston was a small city, and I kind of felt like it was. But recently going back, it's like, oh, it's huge, and those like, oh, I can walk across the city days are over. I don't have the same.
I've never heard Boston as a small city. I mean, when you're waiting in traffic on I-9, it's just that definitely doesn't feel like a small city. I've waited in traffic for like 30 minutes, but never been to New York traffic either. So I've restricted myself so far.
All right.
I remember Seattle as a kid. I used to live in lived in Seattle for a year, or Kent, Washington, which is just a suburb right outside of Seattle. We lived there for a year when our housing fell through, a year-ish, maybe just under, and I can pretty well remember the highways there, very large, bridges and stuff, these really extreme ramps, and always backed up when you're going in the morning, and it's just terrible place.
Yeah,
raining too.
I thought I was gonna like not hang around out here and just kind of commute out of Boston, but no,
it's safe here.
I don't miss all that.
That's sort of that's the most thing that draws me here, is it's so safe. I mean, it's just obviously. I mean, there's definitely anecdotes, but really, I mean, the people here are generally pretty respectful of one another.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really often hear that. There's definitely the one that every so often crazy case. But I like living in rural territory. I don't need to be around, especially with the chaos of how things are going these days. I don't need to be around so many people.
It doesn't need to be any more dangerous or anything like that.
Exactly.
No, well, it's funny what people think is dangerous, though, too. And for some folks, being out here where there's no call boxes and there's no other people around, like we can walk down Marlborough Street out here, and there are no people. There's nobody to come for help. So some folks feel like they're very much isolated and in danger here, unless of course bootstrapping. Strong Americans, you got to get your piece by the door. You keep your shotgun there. You can be safe out here in the woods. But yeah, it is funny because country folks feel a little safer, I think, out here.
If you've lived out here your whole life, it's definitely a little bit easier to be like, this is my territory,
I had friends up when I just bought my house, and I live in downtown Antrim. One of my friends went out walking and came back and said, boy, I was way out there in the woods somewhere. I don't know. I heard water, and I heard and he's walking in the park between here and the town or something. This is more just darker than he's used to.
I know.
So tell me, you've been going to, I guess back on track a little bit.
Yep.
You've been doing a lot of stuff going to the State House.
Mm-hmm.
And what is your purpose? I know you're tuned in to what's going on. Who are you going with, and who got you into it? Because I like the young folks getting out there, figuring this stuff out. Tell me about what brings you there and how it started.
Well, without going on a monologue, I suppose. I mean, I touching what we touched on actually just before. I mean, I've lived many places, and that we've lived many places because of. I grew up to a single mother, me and my sister, who had almost no support throughout her entire life. It didn't really, was figuring it out alongside us. And our housing fell through a couple of times, and stuff. We went through the struggles. So we went through the struggles. It's no unique story. It's in fact the story of just being poor in the United States, I'd say, and I was very cognizant early on of the reality of being poor, the structures that brought us to that position. Not as much so as I am now, but I was very cognizant that it was not our mistake. It was no laziness on our part.
Oh, right.
It was no,
nothing
no
did.
fault, nothing we did that brought us to that position. No. It wasn't the fault of my mother that she was waking up not feeling like she wanted to go on, sort of thing. And I have again, without going into a monologue, I have some serious religious beliefs and faiths which keep me going about sort of, a faith in humanity, a faith in sort of this mutual respect that I think we're all entitled to. And I think that we all engage with on a daily basis. Actually, I mean, I don't, I think most of us are fairly respectful, and I also believe that we've been pushed into such a hateful world that we've started to project hate on ourselves, and we're just realizing many things about the world, sort of thing. Going through such struggle, you're brought to the visceral nature of reality. You're right under the boot of the state, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And you have to sort of really look up who's oppressing you. There's no illusions about it. And because there was no illusions, I complained for a long time about it. I was very angry. This and that. And then I decided one day I could do something about it, and that was just probably about 5 years ago when my mom put me in touch with our mutual friend Heather Stockwell, and then started to do some volunteering with sort of a new progressive organization here in the state, Rights and Democracy. New at the time, Rights and Democracy, and I've done pretty much everything that I have to offer for organizing in that space. The leadership. I'm on the leadership teams right now. I've done the canvassing, the phone banking. I've had a full experience in sort of like what is offered in the organizing space, and that has really opened my eyes to. It's not, being able to see people and talk and hear their stories and relate with them has really opened my eyes to just. Not only is this not this is our life, our struggle is the product of a system, but the people out there are 100% ready for a new paradigm of politics, which brings them that new reality. I've had, my last 5 years of being able to canvass people, knock on their doors, whether that be in the presidential campaign or the healthcare team, has really shown me that it's not just my mother and I yelling at 11:30 p.m. at night or something like that about the struggles that we're going through, or the fact that we can't eat the house. It's everyone, and as much as I'd like to affect some change on that level. And we have a very open state house. I think that's going back to the reason why they do examples. I think that's why they use our state as an example. We have a very open state house. It's not only just a volunteer legislature, but you as a citizen can go in and basically engage with your state legislatures as we are right now, right in the halls of power. That's pretty unprecedented and stuff, and you can get some stuff done.
That is amazing.
You absolutely can get stuff done, and I think that it's sort of the prestige keeps people away. But as soon as you get in there, you realize
that they're regular folks there, and
exactly. Less than regular folks. Some of them are a little bit like, whoa. Yeah.
Well, it is interesting. Yeah, everybody walks right through there, pretty much. And when we go and protest in the halls, they have to walk through us, So we get to see a lot of folks. A lot of people hide from us. A lot of, some of us went up there and tried to, meet with the governor, and ended up just getting arrested and removed. So, not everybody wants to chat. Not everybody uses the front door. Not everybody wants to talk to their constituents. But it is pretty darn open, and it is indeed the people's house. I was amazed. I think it was Heather and perhaps some friends who just said, we're just doing a press conference. Yeah, we're going to do it right in their hallway. Heck yes, we do. So,
it's our space. It's our house. I mean, I remember they do the 4th grade tours, and I remember those. I mean, they bring you in there and they say, hey, this is your house. This is your house. If you ever need to come here, this is your house.
That's
one of my friends asked if you were homeless, could you come here? I mean, I remember that. I don't remember what their answer was, but I remember asking.
Oh, wow.
He asked that. I expect it to be no. What they told 4th graders, I could not. No, and that's what brings me into it is the fact that we could get something done, and if people are willing to talk about their struggles and the reality that they're going through, it's going to become a lot easier for us to realize that it's not, we're not going through it alone. We are truly, as a working class, in it together. And you know,
it's a
what the solution is to that. I mean, that I want to have that debate. That's definitely a debate that needs to be had. But something needs to change, because we are, you know, at the end of our ropes. I'm sure if anyone out here is watching, I mean, I know there are people out there watching who definitely understand what I'm talking about. We're at the end of our ropes for sure.
I think everybody's pretty tired right now.
Yeah.
And, some changes in order.
I mean, how much longer could the wheel spin, sort of thing? I mean,
well, and hopefully, like, we feel the pressure and start doing the right thing, because something's going to pop. You know, things are popping.
And that's the scary part too. I mean, I don't like to operate off of fear. I get into it because of faith, but I recognize too that, like, I do the work because I don't necessarily think that there is another option because of that popping off.
Right.
If it's not addressed, if this sort of underlying effect of just anger and angst and fear and hatred is not addressed on some outlet.
Let's guide it. We know there's some steam's going to come off. Where are we going to?
Where is it going to go? How can we channel this energy into something productive?
Yeah.
Because that energy has before in the past been channeled into something not only unproductive but extremely destructive.
And we don't want to
right.
find ourselves in a place like that.
And the technology that is at the hands of those people who could bring it to extremely destructive means is unbearable. You don't even want to think about it. So.
We could talk for a long time. We should do
but
this.
We did it.
Do this
more.
We did
it.
We are out of time.
Yep.
We came with no topics, and the goal was to have
I live
some
in Peterborough now. Actually,
Yep.
I remember you telling me a couple of times, so I got to go back.
So
to Peterborough,
we're doing this
great.
to establish just exactly this. We want to have some conversations. We want to have conversations where people can hear us. We want to talk to folks who are in the mix, who are making the legislation. We want to hear about what's next, what we can do. In 10 seconds, you got anything you want to say to the folks
10
before
seconds.
I roll us off the edge here?
Stay courageous. Stay courageous. Don't give up. That'd be
Awesome.
my message.
Words to live by. See you next week
Peace.
on November and Beyond.